Hello, everyone, and welcome back to these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me a special guest from decently around the world. To get us started, do you mind introducing yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Hello everyone, I am Muscadamo, and today I guess we're going to be talking about trauma football, which is my latest child. It's a very, I suppose, unique take on the sports genre, particularly football, of course. Other than game developing, I do. I'm an artist, I guess you could say. I do drawings, I do 3D modeling, I do sculpting with like clay and other materials. I don't know. I like having a good time, being creative and shit like that. Sometimes I write too. Nothing particularly exciting, but it's a good way to keep yourself busy.
It sounds like a good modern eclectic level of like being an artist there. It seems like you tend to then be more like visually an artist, right, than like music or stuff. It sounds like then like between your clay and drawing like that, it's more like the visual side of stuff is your passions.
Oh yes, I have tried making music. I don't think I have uh, the 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 gene. I don't know like how was to describe. I just don't have it. I suppose. For the music of Trauma Football, for example, I used to the music of actually someone who makes music for Italian TV. His name is Livio Brescia, and I found these very old CDs that apparently didn't even remember they existed from before he made music for television. And he allowed me to use them for my projects, which was very generous of him. But yeah, music not really my thing, I suppose.
Well, that makes absolute kind of sense. So obviously, as we started this conversation, we were talking about how we're here to talk about Trauma Football, which is a game of yours that released a couple weeks ago now on
Yes.
Steam. For people who have not heard of Trauma Football, kind of, what is your kind of elevator pitch for it, and then kind of maybe if we don't mind grounding it, kind of in like sports people are familiar with, kind of what's changed from it.
Well, the thing is, when it comes to describing it as a sports game, I don't think I'm too qualified because I know barely anything about the actual sport of soccer, which may seem weird because Italians are like stereotypically everyone like watches the big game every day on their big TV screen. But I barely do know the rules of football, so I guess I took a lot of creative liberties, or maybe I didn't. I didn't. I didn't want to verify if it was the case or not. I just wanted to do something that seemed fun to play and to create. But yes, when it comes to like this being a sports game, uh, the very basics, you got the field, you've got 11 players on each side, you score the goal to win. But other than that, I wanted to add a lot of flavor, I guess, to the game with visual novel elements. I wrote a ton of dialogue for this game. I made the sprites for all the characters, and I've created a lot of unique scenarios and situations and all of that kind of stuff where if you do something specific, you will get a different kind of dialogue. And a lot of effort went into that, I suppose. It's probably what kind of audience would want a mix between visual novel and football games, but from my side, I had a lot of fun making everything work together.
No, that kind of makes sense. Sort of, I caught that there. Kind of, where did this like idea really kind of come from? Were you sitting down one day and just being like, I wanted to kind of make something behind this? Kind of, was there like some like moment that really stood out when thinking of or this kind of idea happening?
Well, my past game was a wrestling game. Unlike football, I am very knowledgeable about wrestling. It's kind of my jam. And I wanted to create something different because the wrestling game was based off of template that I used for like another fighting game. But at the same time, I like the idea of making sports games or like games where everything happens within this one area, which is either the field or the ring, because creating all the areas, creating all the specific events, and like programming the CPU for the enemies in specific situations, or creating. There is a lot of baggage that comes with creating even just a simple level. So I wanted to create something that would allow me to polish the gameplay and not having to think about creating assets or taking into account specific possibilities. And it would also be a lot easier to, I guess, play test, because when I play like a level of a video game, I have to take not just like into account the level itself, but a lot of variables that exist outside of the level that may cause problems in ways that are difficult to predict. So yeah, I wanted to create something that would allow me, I suppose, to keep it all in one place, and also that would allow me to create a lot of customizable variables, so that, of course, like football game is going to take place inside a big field, but I also want it to be fun, wanted to have variety. So I added the season mode, I added the mini games. I made sure that you could customize your exhibition games as well as you could. So that was what I wanted for.
Oh, that makes kind of sense. So obviously, one of the big things here, as you've kind of mentioned a few times, is kind of there's a lot of ways you could kind of customize right between like players on the field, kind of to different rules you change. Is there kind of a set like this is how you like to play the game, or kind of like to show people how to play the game, kind of set default rules, or kind of are you kind of a little more open, like when you mess with people, being like, how many people do we want out there? How many people? How long are we playing? Stuff like that.
Like games that are generally like big sandboxes where you can fuck around with the settings and create your own fun in a way. So that's kind of what I wanted to create. I really didn't have a specific way of, I don't know, play, because just testing it, I have to make sure that all possible settings are functional to some level. But I recently actually put it in an update. I created something called the Turbo mode based off of the Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which was essentially the game that you can customize already however you want. But a lot of the limitations for the sake of, I suppose, realism have been removed. The game moves a lot faster. There is a lot more chaos going on. And that was really fun to play and also to watch, because I do like watching. One of the things that made me realize, oh, maybe I have something interesting here, was like watching the CPU play against each other, and being kind of mesmerized by everything that was happening. And then later on, there was a phase where, okay, well, I'm actually playing the game, and yes, the CPU, I guess, is like being entertaining to watch, but I can barely do anything. So I also had to make sure that you had enough control over the game, what was going on. But yes, I do like the fast-pacing game, even if I don't really have like a complete priority over anything else. I just like to fuck around.
No, that's interesting. So as you said, I'm curious. So we're talking about kind of going back when you're watching people kind of play the game. Is there anything
Mhm.
you notice kind of people kind of naturally kind of tend to do, right? Because obviously, like when I hand a controller and it looks like a sport, people kind of, let's be honest, tend to treat it like the sport by default to teach them otherwise. Is there anything that you were kind of surprised by, or is anything kind of like really stood out to you kind of as you saw people play your game?
I think the first thing I noticed is that when someone is playing my games, there is a lot more bugs that I somehow didn't notice when I played them for myself. So that's fun and totally not embarrassing on my side. But other than that, I suppose I wanted people to get a laugh out of the dialogue. And that, I'm very happy to see that it worked. People seemed to like the dialogue, so at least I'm happy about that. But like when it comes to the game itself, I don't know. like I said, people play it the way I did intend, which is just fuck around and see things how they work. I all of the mods that I put in the game, which there is quite a few. Uh, Not a lot of them are meant to be played in the long term. They're just kind of mini games of things that you try once or twice outside of like the season mode, of course, is like the challenges, and that should take you a while. But everything else is, sort of a pick up and play kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I haven't seen anyone playing in local multiplayer. I haven't created the online infrastructure yet. Maybe I will in a future update, but that I would really like to see that. Unfortunately, I haven't had the occasion to see anyone do it. But overall, other than the bugs, which there was quite a few, I'm happy with the progress of the game, but I'm also been updating it a lot these past few weeks, and I'm planning on like launching a big long-term mode around the next week, which should be around the first few days of September by the time this is being recorded. But overall I'm satisfied, even though there is space for improvements, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, because we're talking, the game's been out for about actually 2 weeks on the dot. It looks like. Um, so I'm kind of curious, also, kind of in that context. Obviously, you've seen people more play it, or maybe more talk about it after it's come out, and kind of that. What kind
Hmm.
of was kind of has the reaction you've been seeing from the game kind of the one you expected, or is there anything else that kind of really kind of surprised you, kind of as you headed towards this final launch and released it?
I suppose it went just about as expected. Not a ton of people played the game. As of right now, there should be just like one of reviews on Steam. But I've had a lot of my friends play it. I have seen other people that didn't review the game on Steam tell me about it. I suppose it's kind of not the best way to gauge how good a game is, because like these are people that I know personally most of the time. But I suppose I'm getting the reactions that I expected, especially for the dialogue. But the gameplay is just about what I was hoping it would be. And yes, I guess I'm satisfied. Again, this isn't. I should probably have waited a bit before releasing game, but then again, the feedback that I've gotten so far has been really useful in my updates. So I guess it's a 50-50 scenario. You got to see it from a positive perspective. So yeah.
No, that makes sense. It's always like an interesting thing, especially in today's environment of like, when should I release this? When should I hold updates? It's like it's kind of this back and forth. Did you kind of so obviously you said you're working on some updates that might come out soon, kind of you're kind of thinking kind of where that is. Is the game kind of where with like maybe content wise and kind of feature wise kind of going into this project, or kind of as you're working on this project, kind of where you expected it to be, kind of, or is this the case of, let's be honest, all of our games where it's I had a bunch of ideas that I might try to either adjust in the future, or maybe hold in a back pocket for something down the road, kind of like I'm kind of curious, kind of how this package almost kind of shaped throughout the cycle.
Oh, okay. The thing is, this game wasn't supposed to release a couple of weeks ago. Originally, I had the September deadline. So, all of the updates that I've done so far would have been in the game if I had the feedback for it. But I don't know. But I'm a very impatient man. I just got tired of waiting around. So I just put it out and just to see what people would think. But yes, that's. I mean, I had a lot of ideas that aren't specifically for this one game, but I also have ideas that are going to take me some time to implement. Like I said, there was this one long-term mode, which was, I guess, more managerial than actual gameplay. There is Football Manager that it gets released yearly alongside the FIFA, and it's exactly what you would expect. So I wanted to make something like that. Of course, not on the same scale, but just a distraction to add to the list of distractions during the game.
Well, that makes sense. So when you were kind of thinking of this now, and you're kind of looking forward maybe to your future of like updates or working on next projects do you is trauma football something that you feel like you're gonna keep going back to or is your goal to put a nice bow on this project and then move towards something else in the future?
I'm not sure about to answer this because when I released for wrestling, initially I just wanted to release a couple of updates and then be done with it. But then the game went on for like 4 months of constant patches and additions and stuff like that. So I cannot give you an honest answer because I don't know. I know I have this update. I know I have a couple of things that I want to clean up, but after that, God knows if I come up with something else that takes me like a month and a half to make. I suppose for now I'm satisfied with my current roadmap, and I would consider the game to be complete. But other than that, I wouldn't say I would stop working on it.
No, that kind of it makes sense. It's always interesting because I always have that I think for the same struggle part I used to I think too of can I get more out of this? Is it worth it? Like it's kind of this really weird thing, especially now you're having a package out there too. I have a question that I always like to ask every developer because I know you kind of said how games go along on your side too. For Trauma Football,
Mm.
how long did you expect development to take when you went into it?
About as long as I ended up developing it, which is 8 to 9 months. And a big part of it was that I recycled a lot of the assets from Pro Wrestling, in particular the character creation assets, which would have taken me months alone otherwise to put together. Uh, but just taking them and using them again spared me a lot of time. I don't know if I could have finished this earlier, but I know that. Especially I'm not working right now, but when I was working, of course, progress was a lot slower. If I was just fully dedicated to this game as a full-time project, probably would have taken me 6 months at most. But either way, I'm happy with, there wasn't any particular roadblock. The development process was smooth, nothing game-breaking happened that set me back on any kind of level.
Hmm. Okay, so I have a question in that context, looking at development, I guess Psycho 2. Is there anything you learned in this game or making this game that of something that you would not want to repeat, right? Is there maybe I learned this type of feature is too hard or certain things I just don't like to design or work on as much in games?
Not really. Actually, this was all of the games I've developed, of the fighting games, the visual novels, anything else. This was my favorite one to work on because it was just a very smooth process. I've learned a ton of stuff. I got to do something that was out of my comfort zone. And I even learned a couple of things about soccer as a sport because I did some research to at least a small level just to get the gist of how things work. So I don't know, I'm very happy with how things went.
That's great because honestly, it's always I feel like a lot of times when I look back, but you always get the I wish I could have done this or I wouldn't have done this It's kind of interesting to have that positive thing. You're like, no, actually went really well and especially the part where you actually roughly in that timeline you expect stuff that I don't feel happens a bunch. How did you was it a part of self control? Was it a level of controlling skill? How did you actually make this in the contents and confines of how you wanted to versus let's be honest how most software stories end up going.
Well, I don't really have a clear answer for that, I suppose. My development for Trauma Pro Wrestling was the exact opposite of that. It was very difficult to make sure that everything was exactly the way I wanted it to. And even so, there was still a lot of compromise I had to make because I was using the base of a game that wasn't meant to be a wrestling game. So maybe it's just because there was such a big contrast between that game and this one, but I don't know. I just found myself happy to work on something different. Just having. I was scared that I would have to create so much stuff from scratch, but in actuality, it ended up being my favorite part of the development of this game. Just the fact that I could try so many new different things that I couldn't before.
Oh, that I was like that makes perfect sense. I was gonna say, kind of looking at, obviously we've talked about kind of the game, kind of your development cycle. Is there any part of either the game feature wise or the story development wise that kind of stands out to you? Anything you feel like we have really missed kind of when discussing kind of trauma football and kind of the development cycle?
Sorry, could you rephrase the question? I
Yeah,
didn't
is there
quite.
anything that I would say probably the clearest way? Is there anything else kind of that you would like to highlight or kind of talk about kind of when talking about either with Trump or with either the development cycle or kind of like a feature of the game or anything else that would be worth highlighting?
Okay, well, it's not. I suppose it would be very controversial. Not controversial, excessive. A bit atypical to bring up the story of a football game, but I'm really proud of that one in particular. You know, it started off as like a very edgy story with lots of crude humor and stuff like that, just for the sake of it. But over time, it evolved into something that was a bit more complex. Maybe on the surface level, you will just see the edgy humor and stuff like that. But if you look into the actors and try to get their dialogues and stuff like that, I think I did something really interesting there. Now, when it comes to the gameplay, which should be the most important part, and you know, it's the one that took me the most time. My idea was to create a football game that even someone who isn't a fan of football could play and enjoy. Because I've played Winning Eleven 2002 for the PlayStation 1, and that game is fantastic. That is, when I played it, I was like, oh my god, my own game, you know, at that point, was at a certain level. That game made me realize that the game could be so much more than what I was working on at the time. But it
Oh,
was
that's
also very sorry, but it was also a very difficult game to play as someone who isn't like an expert. You know, there is a lot of stuff that you have to take into consideration. What there is like 11 players on both sides, and you have to make sure that like you're in the right position at the right time. They're not casual friendly games. The football stuff, at least the one that I played, which is widely considered to be one of the better ones, at least from what I read. So I wanted to create something more casual, friendly, something that even so it still had a lot of stuff that you could try out and experiment with, even if you are just a casual.
oh, that's right. That is an interesting challenge, kind of like, especially these types of games. I feel like even if it has like you kind of as you know you kind of a little edgy or kind of look there like especially like when people see like sports games or racing, it's kind of like there's always that challenge of like people who are gonna be really into this and the rules on the hardcore side, and the other people who, like they just want to go pick up and play and kind of like you always want to find the balance of keeping them both happy. Did
Mm.
you kind of have, I guess, a target player you were going for? Like, were you more aiming on the like get the people who just wanted to grab and go kind of happy, or did you kind of try to think about the people who might really try to get into the rules or kind of the nuance of the game?
A difficult question because I think I didn't really think of like a target audience for the game. I suppose I just wanted to make something that I would want to play because you know sports games, not just football games, it tend to follow one of two structures usually. Either they are the kind of arcade one that is still grounded in the rules of football, or they tend to take a more realistic approach, which no, both are fun. I'm not like criticizing them. I'm just saying that I wanted to kind of break these barriers, okay, to do something that took more liberties and did something that maybe someone who isn't a football fan will look at this and maybe want to try it out because it's unlike anything that he has seen before. And if you're a football fan and you're looking at FIFA, that's not going to entice you in any way. Which is, again, it's fine. I'm not saying this to criticize the games. Football games are made for football fans, but I'm not a football fan, and I wanted to make something that would make me want to get into football, I suppose. I didn't make this with the intention of attracting any kind of audience. I just wanted to make this so because I had an idea about what I wanted to do, and I thought it would be something unique to pull off in case it gets any amount of success online.
No, that sounds great. It is interesting to me how you're like, I wasn't a fan. I made it for like the lack of a fan, and that to me kind of almost like adds its like own flair to it. Kind of naturally like it is funny because like when you're not a fan of something, kind of like as like that up core like hard fan, it's interesting because like you're more willing, I feel like, to throw away rules. Or like if you're like you're someone who like really loves a thing to begin with, you're like, well, this is the rule of the thing, or this is the like way it's supposed to work. Or kind of like otherwise you get to a little more like throw out the rule book. And that's kind of interesting way to kind of I think look at things and kind of look at systems. So I would say, and honestly, I'd say great job, obviously completing this game kind of in your time and all that stuff that you want to do because super rare to hear developers kind of be able to say that they did that. So people again who are interested, the game we were talking about is Trauma Football. You could currently buy it on Steam. It came out about 2 weeks ago at the time of recording this. It is $9.99 USD. Go check out your local currency and all that good stuff. Before I let you go, is there any other spot we should be sending people to go check out either your current work, past work, future work, any of that good stuff?
Well, okay, all of my games that I want people to play should be on Steam. So if you just click on the publisher, you're going to see my name. Click there and go to see all of my other work. I've also made visual novels of the more adult variety that you can find on Newgrounds. If you're into that, my name should be Nuskadandev, unless I'm forgetting. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have anything to say. That's my work there when it comes to video games. So if you want to check it out, that would make me really happy.
That sounds great. Again, I want to say thank you for taking time to talk to me today, and best of luck as you kind of work towards both updating travel football and your continuing work in both the games and graphic novel and personal art space.
Thank you, thank you. Hope you're having a good day and that whatever creative endeavor you're working on ends up being successful and well liked, and it doesn't make your hair go gray like it's been with me.